and make sure it's red to turn it on. Oh my god, seems I broke it. But if you
Good afternoon. Good afternoon. I want to, can you hear me? Yeah. Good afternoon, everyone. I want us to start now, so I'm asking if you can still please sit down. Thank you, everyone, and thank you for joining our side event on the Sustainable Livestock Journey. My name is Cynthia Mugo. I work with the International Livestock Research Institute, and I will be your moderator for today. I want to thank you all for attending. And really just to welcome you to our side event that will explore what livestock actors are doing or how they're engaging with food systems transformation. So in the next 90 minutes, in the next 60 minutes, actually, it's just 60 minutes. I wish it was 90. We will explore what different actors are doing in the food system space. Our session will begin with some opening remarks, followed by a high-level keynote speech, and then we'll have some case presentations that will exemplify the practical applications of sustainable livestock solutions in food systems. We will then have a commentary and then open for some feedback, question and answer session, and then some concluding remarks. It's a very short session, so I'm asking everyone to keep it short so that we can hear from this live audience that we have here. So without further ado, let me introduce to you our first speaker. I am really quite honored to invite Ambassador Mario Aviello. He's the chair of the steering committee of the UN Decade of Family Farming, and he will open our session by shedding light of the importance of this discussion today and how it links to the family farming agenda. Ambassador Aviello, welcome.
Thank you very much. I am really confused because when you mentioned about the timing, I thought that you were giving me 2 hours, but I guess I will have to do with 4 to 5 minutes. Thank you for being here. This is a discussion that we must have, and that the fact that we're having it now doesn't mean that we can check that, because so many others need to know about these things. I am very proud and honored to be the chair of the steering committee of the UN Decade on Family Farming, which runs from 2019 to 2028. And the Secretariat was kind enough, these are great people, led by Guillermo Brady and Marcela Villarreal. They have a wonderful team based here at FAO. It is also comprised of technical experts from the IFAD, the International Fund for Agricultural Development. But this house is the place where they work from. And they have prepared a number of notes, and I will go very quickly because I want to make a point before I have to yield the floor. First thing is to establish that when we speak about family farmers, we're also speaking about individuals, women and men and their children, who are working with livestock. So it's not just planting on the ground, it's also raising cattle and petit ruminant and others, and therefore contributing to food security and nutrition all over the world. The most important thing is, from where I come from and what I am telling you, is to have policy advice, because this is what FAO does. It is a knowledge organization, and it reunites all of the experts in all of the given fields that have to do. They bang their heads together and they provide policy advice for countries. And I invite you to visit the website for the Global Action Plan for the family farming and the Global Action Plan in particular, because we have 7 pillars there. The most important one is pillar 1. But all are important, of course, like the SDGs. But the first one, like in the SDGs, eradicating poverty and then eradicating hunger and so on, is creating an environment where multi-stakeholder partnerships can come together, capacity building, improved and transparent governance, promoting laws and policies. And the successes are so many. Over 260 policies and regulations in support of family farming, including in the livestock sector, have been put together with the help from the decade, including in my own country, the Dominican Republic. About the challenges, very quickly, again, the Secretariat lists things that you have already heard time and again. Challenges have to do with access to productive and natural resources, services, extension services, information technologies and innovations, climate change, of course, the climate crisis that we are all living in, environmental degradation, and among the many others, infectious diseases. And there I want to bring this circle to conclusion, because the purpose of this meeting is to raise awareness of the significance of policies and multi-stakeholder involvement. First. Second, to enable data and knowledge exchange to support countries in addressing the rising demand for animal-based food, and to promote a holistic approach that includes all relevant stakeholders, recognizing the interconnectedness of social, economic, and environmental considerations in livestock farming. And why do I single out the challenge of pathogens and the infectious diseases? Again, very quickly, if you think for a moment about current species in the world, if you do a quick Google search like I did for during my research for these words, you will see that some say that we have 3 million species, 8.7 very accurately, others go to 100 million, others go to 1 trillion. Why is that number important, those numbers? Is that paleontologists, the scientists that study previous life in the planet, studying the fossil record, they say that 99% of all species that have ever existed have gone extinct. So that's 999 in 1,000. So when we get all these numbers in our head, where is Mario going with this? It's because we as humans have only eliminated 2 life forms consciously. We have decided, let's eliminate certain life forms, certain pathogens. And the first one was smallpox, 1980. And that was done only because the US and the USSR came together, even though they were fighting the Cold War, and WHO, the World Health Organization, and we had Dr. Tedros Ghebreyesus roaming the corridors, I saw him yesterday, got together and eliminated smallpox. And then FAO led the elimination of rinderpest. That's cattle plague, which killed up to 90% of infected animals. So this is what FAO is for. This is why we're converging here at FAO today and every time they convene meetings such as these, because bringing proved unable to eliminate hunger and malnutrition. So they have created international organizations such as this one. And we need to bring, as we are bringing, civil society, the private sector, academia, research institutions, other UN agencies, and all the stakeholders. Of course, consumers should be the most important, but in the end, it's difficult to bring all consumers together as we can bring governments and others together. So to conclude, I heard during the whole day yesterday and this morning that everyone speaking is talking about the need for more financial resources, money, it is not coming by. Political will, yes, but then there are the problems of how to actually convert policy advice into policy solutions within the countries. So I will leave it at that because I know that you're about to take the floor off from me. The point is, let's think about these things. Let's think about how we can all put pressure on our governments to get the fiscal space, to get the money coming in, and to get the policy advice that emanates from FAO and all of the other agencies to be written into concrete laws for application in the territories. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Ambassador Avrilo. You come at the right time before we go to Ambassador Charniak, and especially because you're our chair for the subcommittee on livestock at COAG. And before I come to you, he said two very good points. Family farmers, they are the front line. They are the ones facing malnutrition and also the ones supposed to meet the demand of raising demand for livestock. Policies, over 260 of them, are they really being implemented? Multi-stakeholder engagement. So in your keynote that we are getting into, we are really eager to hear your perspective on how livestock is contributing to resilient and sustainable food systems. What are your thoughts on this? And what are the challenges that we need to be addressing? Over to you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I am delighted to participate in this extremely important side event on sustainable livestock. In this sense, as chair of the subcommittee of the FAO subcommittee on livestock, I do believe that the topic is transcendental to achieve SDG 2, since without animal farming, it is a chimera to promote the goal of global food security, in particular within developing countries. In parallel, from my perspective, it is critical to emphasize that this discussion is including the very protagonists of the sector, without whom any debate around sustainability is simply unimaginable. To be frank and to be politically correct, at the same time, it's so difficult. So sorry, I will try to be very frank. In the first place, I would like to recall where we are and where we are now on this subject. 2 years ago, in the context of the Food Systems Summit, some groups, or even interest, tried to install a hostile global narrative on the sector, which was based on obscurantist beliefs and biased conceptions that had nothing to do with science. 2 years ago, an attempt was made to demonize the sector and blame it for all the deficiencies concerning food systems. 2 years ago, the message coming from the action tracks was that animal proteins should be replaced by alternative sources of food. All of us, we can remember that. And thank you all who was engaged in organizing this side event, because without this side event, livestock could have been invisibilized again in this stock-taking moment. Although many speakers from the Global South, but not only, mentioned the importance of livestock in the food systems. So where we are now, the FAO subcommittee on livestock was created after more than 70 years. And this turning point allowed us to trigger critical discussions among member states, the World Organization for Animal Health, international platforms such as GASL and LEAP, the World Farmer Organizations, and mainly the producers around the world, among others. Topics such as animal well-being, antimicrobial resistance, alternative feed practices, peste de petit ruminant, and the integration of livestock and forestry approaches are being duly tackled to enhance animal production. In other words, by understanding that animal farming needs to be ameliorated in terms of trade-off now, livestock is identified as part of the solution to improve our food systems. I repeat it, livestock is part of the solution. Our activities to promote breaking silos within FAO, advocating for working together with forestry, trying to showcase that livestock and forestry are not antithetical. We have many successful stories about silvopastoralism around the world. 1 month ago, I visited Kenya and had a meeting with the responsible of livestock in East Africa and also with the African Union. And the next week, I'm going to Brazil and to Argentina to advocate for the same purpose. Dear moderator, and I finish with that. Equally important for the FAO publication on the contribution of terrestrial animal source food to healthy diets. The science-based assessment, among other messages, clearly underpin that meat, eggs, and milk, just to name a few products, provide a range of irreplaceable macro and micronutrients that are difficult to obtain from plant-based food. This is to say, to obtain healthy physical and cognitive development, infant, adolescents, and human in general require consuming animal proteins. This message is science, not narrative. Of course, there is much more to be done and discussed to enhance the sector. For that reason, next September, FAO will gather the first ever global conference on livestock. I'm sure that Tanawa Tenzin will talk about that. This event will be a great opportunity to make countries and different stakeholders, including scientists, to come together and share experiences on how to reduce emissions, the relationship between livestock and land use, also herd management. Again, my point here is that the sector is indeed improving its efficiency, for instance, throughout the initiative Net Zero, and we all need to accompany this transformation according to a specific context and when required. I would like to end by insisting on the importance of livestock in achieving the 3 dimensions of sustainability, particularly in developing countries. Animal farming is a critical activity that boosts regional economies, creates employment, and fosters livelihood incomes. At the same time, in the case of nomadic pastoralists, livestock constitutes not only a way to provide food for local communities, but essentially represent the core of some cultures. In sum, livestock is a cross-cutting activity that not only is indispensable for global food security, but also locally for social inclusion and economic growth. I and the team of the Subcommittee on Livestock are eager to continue engaging in discussing how to improve the sector, and of course, count on me for keeping showcasing the extraordinary contribution of animal proteins to achieving SDG 2. Sorry for the long speech.
Ambassador Cheniak, thank you for the inspiration. We've heard you. Livestock is part of the solution. It's a food system solution for family farmers, for women, for children. The sector is improving and critical to our economies. This is a proven scientific fact. Thank you. Now, let's transition to what is actually happening at the country level. And I have the honor to introduce to you Mr. Bernard Kimoro, who is the head of climate and livestock sustainability at the Ministry of Agriculture in Kenya, to really tell us what is happening in the country and how this in the country. So Bernard, please shed to us some light on how the livestock sector is contributing to the development of sustainable and resilient food systems in Kenya. Thank you.
Thank you very much. It's an honor to be in FAO Rome with the director and ambassador. I just remember a few weeks ago, I think we were together in Nairobi, and it was a pleasure. What I want to say is, for Kenya, livestock is critical for three aspects. One is socio-cultural. I think Ambassador has already talked about that. Some of the communities that we have really value livestock for the fact that they are insurance for their livelihoods. They are also part of the biodiversity in those areas. So they are, and is a sort of insurance for the farms in those particular areas. Secondly, in terms of livelihood, again, Ambassador has talked about this. If you look at Kenya, for example, we are talking about a sector that has contributes to almost 12% of the GDP. Dairy alone, for example, contributes 3.5% of the GDP. So that really shows you the importance of livestock for us. If you look at the country in general, 80% is actually pastoral, yeah? And half of that 80% is arid, which means there is no crop which can grow there. The only sort of agricultural activity that can take place there is livestock based. So for us, it is very critical. Now, overall in Kenya, 90% of the households have one form of livestock or another, all right? It is a resilience mechanism for us. It's very critical. If you go to a household and there's no chicken, for example, that is a poor household. That's how we measure poverty in our area. 95% of their households, as I've said, is purely livestock based. Their livelihoods, socio-cultural benefits are derived from livestock. So it's very important. So if you look at the manufacturing of livestock products or livestock and livestock products, we are looking at almost 12% of all manufactured goods coming from livestock. Again, that is very important. Now, as a country, Kenya has the 6th largest livestock herd in Africa, the 12th in the world. It has the 3rd largest dairy herd in Africa. And therefore, livestock is very important for us. Now, I want to talk about dairy. For us, dairy has been one of the most important livestock activity. The reason is we have 1.8 million households that are actually practicing small-scale family kind of farming, dairy practices, producing 5.6 billion liters every year, and earning livelihoods from that. Now, what we have done in Kenya for dairy is to ensure that these 1.8 million households actually are aggregated into farmer producer organizations, and through that they can then aggregate the milk, which is then chilled, taken through the processing, and then it finds its way to the consumers. So that if you look at it in terms of contribution to the food system, it is critical that we sustain the aspect of enhancing the aggregation, adding value through the chilling, and also taking it to the processors, and then we are giving a final product which is of high quality, which is safe to the public. So that is very important. So what we have done actually in the last 2 years, since the last summit, the government of Kenya has invested in 600 small enterprise, small and medium enterprises, where we have supplied milk cooling facilities. Now, the whole thing is once you aggregate, then it becomes a business hub. We have people who are bringing in the inputs, and that then goes on to improve the productivity. For us, the whole idea is how do we improve the productivity? Because at the end of the day, we may not be able to reduce what we call the absolute emissions from cattle, yeah? But how are we reducing the emission intensities? By increasing the production from this cattle that we have. So for us, that's what we've done for the last 2 years. And in the ASAL area, the productivity is quite low, obviously because of interacting factors. Climate change is one of them, which has reduced the feed. I think the aspect of diseases has been talked about. So it is an area that we need to invest in. So one of the things we have done is to invest in what we call the index-based livestock insurance. So what it does is to de-risk the activities that the farmers are doing by using satellite technology to be able to monitor the pasture, and that then we can be able to pay the premiums to assist the communities there, and that then sustains the production. We started with about 30,000 households. Now we are targeting to reach 300,000, which will cover 2.5 million tropical livestock units. That means a large animal. I think all this is being done under what we call the agricultural sector and transformation strategy, which is the anchor for us on the food systems. And we feel by improving productivity, ensuring that the supply chains are efficient through aggregation and in connecting across to all the actors within the value chain, that is very critical for us. And what you have not forgotten is the inclusion part of it. As we do the aggregation, we are making sure that we are actually including women and youth in all the activities that we are implementing. All projects we have now are talking about 30% women and youth involvement as part of the inclusion in the food systems. Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you, Bernard. And it's good to hear that livestock systems are linked to food systems in general, nutrition, trade, livelihoods. And there is also a lot of work to be done. Productivity is still low. We know from the SOFI report that was just released, malnutrition is still high, hunger, accessibility of animal source foods is very low, still in a country like Kenya. So there's still a lot of work to be done. And as Abbas and Avrelo said, we need a lot of investments to increase productivity and also availability. You brought about the issue of youth, and I want to turn over to our next speaker. And I'm very pleased to welcome Ms. Josiane Irakarama. She's representing the collective voice of farmers and youth. As a young farmer and an esteemed member of the Wild Farmers Organization, Josiane, I'd really like you to share with us how the younger generation are getting involved in livestock and food systems transformation. Thank you.
Thank you so much, moderator. I am Josiane Irakarama from Ingabo Syndicate.
Close to the microphone.
Okay, thank you.
Maybe it's not working. Maybe you could. Yeah.
Okay, good. Yeah. Yes, thank you. Can you hear me?
Yeah. Please go ahead.
Okay.
Let's go close to the microphone.
Okay, yes. I'm Josiane Irakarama from Rwanda in Ingabo Farmers Syndicate, which is a member of the World Farmers Organization. And it's a pleasure to be here today representing the youth in agriculture, especially in livestock farming. I'm going to present a little bit a case study from one of my colleagues from Rwanda. His name is Gilbert Niodusenga, and he's the president of Ingabo Syndicate's Young Farmers Forum. And Gilbert has a pig farm that he started when he was still a student in 2008. He was doing his bachelor's degree in Rwanda. And the reason why I resonate with this story so much is because this is just one of the very many stories across my country where the youth are taking initiatives to be part of the livestock, but also the farming industry, which is really not an easy thing to do for the youth, because I don't know how many of you knows about Rwanda, but we are a very small country with a growing population, and we have land problems, land issues. There's small land, and the population is growing bigger every day. So livestock is an opportunity for the youth to create their own jobs, to invest in the farming industry, but also to boost the sustainable food systems. This is our way of contributing to the sustainability of the food systems, because with livestock farming, we increase the we contribute to the nutrition by providing a balanced diet. We improve the economies of our countries, and we can be able to give back to our local communities. Example, of my friend Gilbert, he has already now in 5 years given jobs to 6 people from his home community. Now imagine if we were able to empower the youth to do the same like everywhere in the community, start with the small initiatives in our local communities and improve and empower the youth, not only the male, but also the female youth in agriculture. Like what can we achieve with that? So we need more empowerment. Like we need to bring the voice of the farmers at the table, and we need to make sure that our local mechanisms of doing the farming, either livestock farming or any kind of farming, are empowered, because we have our solutions in our local communities, but they are not given as much value, as much attention as the big projects on the global arena. Thank you.
A special and warm thank you, Josiane. It's not easy being a young person in such an intimidating table, I can imagine, and a farmer with this on this table as well. So thank you very much. We heard the message: involve the youth, empower the youth. We've heard you, and create more jobs. So I want to turn over to our host, FAO. You've listened to the presentations, and we are really fortunate to be hearing from you, Dr. Tanawa Tinchin, Director, Animal Production and Health Division, FAO. You're to provide us with the final commentary. And listening after what you've heard, knowing that we are coming next, I think in another 2 months, we'll be at your forum on sustainable livestock. You'll be hosting us. And then after that, we'll probably go to CFS and we'll be hosted there again to talk about food systems again. And then after that, we go to COP20 in Dubai. How are we engaging? How should we show up in this forum as advocates of livestock, sustainable livestock? And also, really, what's the one message you would give to this who are really passionate about sustainable livestock feeding into food systems? Thank you.
Thank you very much, moderator, and also the distinguished speakers. Thank you for joining Sustainable Livestock Journey today. Our journeys did not start today, but it's back over the past years that livestock farmers, producers really change the way of your producing to ensure that we increase food securities, nutritional securities, to make sure that our infants, children, ourselves, and our elderly people have a nutritious food. As you know that animal source food, eggs, milk, meat is one of the high qualities animal proteins, micronutrients for health of people. But over the past decades, livestock and animal source food has been criticized as ambassadors of Argentina, my dear colleagues and friends, because before I became, today is 10 months and 25 days in my position as the directors. Before, my dear ambassadors of the Dominican Republic, which actually my predecessors as a chair of CFS. We know that at FAO, we didn't talk much. Today, we start our sustainable livestock journey together. We bring the issues of livestock to discuss here and everywhere. It just last week, I just came back from India. We also went to India at G20 to discuss at the International Symposium on Sustainable Livestock Transformation. Because we know that livestock and animal source food is a part of food systems, is a part of agri-food system. But we need to learn from our past experience what we did wrong and what we can do better in the futures. Because by 2050, we know that we need to feed 10 billion people. And those 10 billion people that we're going to feed need animal source food, egg, milk, and meat for their nutritional securities and food securities. And we know that by the FAO projections, by 2050, around 20% that we need to produce more for animal source food. But how are we going to produce more with less impact is the issues. And also when you're talking about sustainability, as my colleagues already mentioned earlier, we always see three circles of social, environment, and economic. But we know that the sustainability, the definition in each country and each region is different. Some countries need more to feed their people. Some countries need more in terms of economic growth to make sure that people can have better income from livestock, as my dear young colleagues from Rwanda mentions, or even though my colleagues from Kenya mentions. And that's why when we're talking about sustainable livestock transformation, we need to make sure that we balance all the issues. And that's why the early of this year at FAO, we're discussing about sustainable livestock transformation initiative. How we're going to build the global balance and positive narrative of sustainable livestock, animal source food. How we're going to strengthen the sustainable pathway for each sectors, milk, egg, meat, dairy, beef, small-scale farmers, and pastoralisms. To make sure that we know that each country, each sectors bring solution. And we had just have heard that we have solution from our colleague from Kenya, our colleague from Rwanda, or even though when I visited India, India have all solution already. I visited women biogas cooperative. Now all the cow manure go to biogas, biodigester. Now animal feeding management is improving in India. I see my colleague from South Asia. We know that livestock sectors and people in the sectors are moving forward to sustainability, to feed people, to increase economic, inclusive economic growth, and also in terms of economic, environmental impact as well, that we are well aware. And that's why on 25th to 27th of September this year, it's the first time ever that FAO, together member state and all livestock stakeholders, will come here again at the Global Conference on Sustainable Livestock Transformation. Livestock sectors, people in the sectors need to stand up. Could you please stand up, please, with me? For a while. Because over the past decade, we are too shy to talk what we make contribution to healthy people and healthy planet. Please sit down. Sorry to keep you stand up a bit, to stretch your leg. Yep, because we are too shy to talk what we make contribution to for healthy people and healthy planet. But on 25th to 27th September, we will stand up to tell what we make contribution and what solution that we can offer to this planet. But we cannot do just only single events of Sustainable Livestock Transformation Global Conference, but we need the decade of actions. We need to continue for the decade to highlight to policymakers, like our ambassadors, consumers, and general public, to say that livestock sectors by 2030, we reduce whatever we want to reduce, and we increase what we have to increase. to improve better livelihood, better income for young generation, better future for young generation. And that's why during that week, not only our talk, but we will have the first time as well, the Global Youth Dialogue for Sustainable Livestock Transformation. Now my colleagues, Badi, already reported me. At the beginning, we planned to have just only 500 participants to join the Global Conference and Youth Dialogue. But now we have to change our plan to receive around 1,000. Because now, I have to say that we have met so many countries and many sectors that want to come, and the doors open. We need to think together. We need to work together for better futures of food system and sustainable livestock transformation.
Thank you.
We need your support. We need your action. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. We can hear the passion. We are sold. We are in there. We are sold. I want to we have some time, and I really wanted us to get into some commentary and some engagement with the audience. But first, I want to give a chance to the president of the International Dairy Federation, Mr. Pierre Cristiano Brazil, to really just give us a commentary to this panel as we open it up as well. If you have any questions, comments, keep it short so that we can also open it up for everyone else. Thank you.
I was just invited by my friends Tanowat and Cherniak. So, no, I want to underline that the role of animal protein in balanced diets absolutely is really essential. But I would like to underline also some topics that are for me is very, very important about the sustainability of our sector. It's very important to consider the three dimensions and consider also in the developing countries that sustainability is very important in socio-economical terms for improving livelihoods and so on. But I would like to answer and to say some words about the narrative against the livestock sector, agriculture sector, because sometimes we have some data that sometimes seems science-based but are not correct. And that show that, for example, we use 70% of fresh water, something like we emit 24% of greenhouse gases. We use 30%, around 30% of land area, and we use around 30% of global energy. But remember, we produce 100% of food and feed. We need to remember always to the people that is against us. But it's very important livestock contribution to healthy people and planet in terms, for example, livelihood, pastoral system, biodiversity, integrating livestock system like silvopasture and so on. But the most important thing is to remember that our emissions are biogenic. Remember always that, because we are under attack about emission of CO2 and methane, but are part of a cycle. We renovate the resources. We are not using resources, but we are renovating resources. Remember always that.
Thank you very much. I want to open it up to any questions or maybe two.
Yeah, that's a good point. I only got here like 10 minutes ago, so. No, please. Okay, you can. There's one. So you can go back. Thank you. Finally, hello. Good. I just wanted to make a point. So my name is James Lomax. I lead food systems for UNEP, and I know many of you here. And I always enjoy these conversations. I'm based in Nairobi. one of the things that I think, so much as I'm a fan of these kind of sector-specific dialogues, I'm not sure it really gets to the point of a food systems summit. Because when I think of livestock, I think of agriculture. I don't think of it as something separate to agriculture. One of the problems that we have, that I can see from an environmental perspective, are the closed nutrient loops that were the reason that we went through our agriculture revolutions all those years ago, was because we understood that farming included livestock with arable and vegetables and all the rest of it. The trouble is now it's not like that. So I don't think it's the right approach to talk about how can livestock change. It's how can livestock become more integrated into sustainable agricultural systems. So I'm not sure I agree that we have to start banging the drum about sustainable livestock. It's about how can livestock be reintegrated much more into more sustainable agriculture. Thank you.
Point noted. Thank you, James. The lady in red, please. And then I'll take the last one, the gentleman there. He's very adamant. And then I'll have all of you respond. So prepare your responses to the questions being asked as your final remarks. Yes.
Thank you. My name is Lana Wagena. I was a youth vice chair for the UN Food Systems Summit in 2021, one of the 5. My question is to the organizers, as I'm guessing they're in the room, which is around 3 points. The first is
Just
why...
Give us one,
yes,
the
it's
key
one question.
Okay.
Just wondering why there was no balance in this event. Multiple times it has been referenced that there is criticism and that there is concern around the sustainability of livestock, around the emissions that come from livestock. So a number of the speakers are aware that there is a large amount of concern on that and that there is momentum on that end. And so if you want to have a discussion and to fully represent the views of stakeholders and internationally, then why was everything stacked in one favor? The second part is why Global North was not discussed. Global South was mentioned several times around the situations regionally for communities in the Global South, but why is there no discussion of what is happening in the Global North, as that can differ strongly in those situations?
Okay.
And then also a number of the speakers have mentioned that the sector is doing better, that the sector is improving, but where are the details? I haven't heard any of the speakers say exactly what they are doing, how they are improving. And so we're seeing no accountability in terms of these improvements that are mentioned, and just statements saying that livestock is important and that you must have these products, but we need to see the evidence. We need to see what action is actually happening, and also to bring in at least one speaker who can represent the other views that have been mentioned several times.
Okay, thank you, thank you. One last, yes, the gentleman at the back. That's it.
Thank you. Philip Limbury from Compassion in World Farming, a farm animal welfare organisation founded by a farmer, and I'm proud to live on a farm hamlet. And I'd like to support the last 2 speakers regarding accountability and positivity, and about the need to integrate the livestock sector with the wider agriculture. There's no doubt in my mind that when farmed animals are kept well and as part of the land on pasture-fed regenerative systems, they can be part of the solutions to some of the serious challenges now facing humanity: climate, biodiversity loss, nutritional security, and so on. I think where things have gone more questionably is when animals are taken out of the farm and into industrial agricultural systems, where they are separated from the rest of the farm scenario. So I would support the thesis that we should avoid looking at livestock as a segment, as a distinct segment, and actually look to integrate it and look to bring balance. We do need to recognize that the livestock sector contributes more greenhouse gases than all the world's transport put together. That is a fact. And that if we eat too much meat, which is the trend line, then our food alone will trigger catastrophic climate change. It doesn't have to be like that. If we reintegrate the animals, bring in more balance, and bring genuine sustainability to the agri-farm industry, which includes farmed animals kept in welfare-friendly, nature-friendly ways. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Phil. And I'm going to give it to my panel. And as you make your remarks, this will be your final round. Please think about it as your final round. If you don't have anything to say, it's okay. And I also want to let you know it's a 60-minute side event. We can't give a lot of detail in 60 minutes. I'm sure if you follow up with these people, they can give you all the accountability information that you need. James, I agree. Food systems is a very new concept, 2 years old now. We are working at it. We're moving the sector. We're moving into food systems lenses. But let me let the panelists speak, and I'll start with you, Ambassador Chaniak. Please keep it short, pointed, and if something is said, please don't repeat it. We've run out of time.
Okay, thank you very much. I will try to say three points. First one was that when I started my intervention, I expressed that I would have liked to have the same possibility to express, like my colleague expressed here, her criticism about this side event during the Food System Summit. Unfortunately, whatever we did in terms of trying to raise our position was absolutely impossible to be captured in the declaration, in the final declaration. And it's interesting to see the tracks and to see who manage many of those tracks, NGOs with a particular ideological perspective. And this is something that it was very important to remember because I didn't receive this kind of criticism from your side at that moment at the Food System Summit. So this is one issue. The second issue is that we have this side event because we couldn't have the possibility to include in the agenda of this stock-taking moment, livestock. We couldn't. If the stock-taking moment could have captured this issue to discuss in a balanced way, of course, we wouldn't need to have this side event in 1 hour to try to be and contain all our ideas and suggestions that, of course, it's impossible to include it in only 1 hour. So I would like to finish saying that in the subcommittee on livestock, that all regions and all members from every country are represented. And we have a MAPO, and we discuss an agenda that all these issues that also you mentioned here are absolutely in the agenda. So we are discussing from a science-based approach, and we are trying to provide inputs to FAO in order that FAO can put in practice, because the subcommittee is not an implementation agency. It's only a structure to have conversations with private sector, with NGOs, with experts, and with the academia, and all these conversations are being transformed in inputs to FAO. Thank you very much.
Ambassador Chaniak, can I come here to Ambassador? Can I come to Ambassador Avrilo? Please go on.
Yes, very quickly. James, the very first thing that I said was precisely that the steering committee that I chair on family farming takes into account livestock as well as fisheries and every single aspect of food production. So somehow that was encapsulated there, and I connect that with the so-called lady in red. I'm sorry I missed your name. We have been speaking about developing countries, of course, the Global South, but in the steering committee, we are working very closely, again, with the issue of livestock as well as the traditional farming, fisheries, forest services, and so on, with the Global North. The North Americans, Switzerland, Nordic countries, and so on are also participating. And but you make very good points that they might as well have been mentioned here. One last point is that, and that refers to the gentleman and all three, that is that this is the UN, and the UN is defined by the Charter. Article 1 says that it is an association of member states that are all sovereign and equal. And we need to take into account every single country. There are countries in the world, because of their size or their specificities, that do not take into account livestock in the same manner as others that are landlocked do not do marine fisheries. But the point is, as we heard from Ken, Kenya and Argentina and many others. This is something that we need to take up holistically. And we may all, I for one, oppose such barbaric things like bullfighting, and which I believe should be eliminated from everywhere. But when we talk about livestock and raising cattle and farming and taking fish out of the sea and other bodies of water, that is for food security. And food security is a global goal. So that's that. Thank you.
Yeah. Mine is very brief. Luckily, in Africa, we don't have industrial systems, in Kenya specifically, so we are more on family farming. So we are still working on how to improve the agroecological systems to balance nature with their production. So that's where we are right now. What I also wanted to say is that we need to look at livestock. It has been put down for a long time, but the importance of livestock, as the director said, in terms of the nutrients, there are specific segments in our countries that really require livestock nutrients. And for us, it's a food security issue. And I'm very happy with this event that it's highlighting issues about livestock, because then we can bring in the balance between those who are talking about crops being the only sole source of nutrients, and how we can balance it with livestock, or livestock products, which are very critical for our health systems.
Thank you, Bernard. I'll take you to Josiane. Do you have something to say?
Thank you. As Bernard has said, livestock the importance of livestock is different in different countries. So in our developing countries, like especially for me, Rwanda, we are a landlocked country. Livestock is very essential in terms of providing nutrients, and also in terms of providing fertilizers for our farmers and boosting the economy of our country. So it's a priority.
Thank you, Josie.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
The question. For example, to give us some data, in the last 10 years, the dairy sector reduced the emission intensity of greenhouse gases by 11%, from 2.8 to 2.5 kilograms of CO2 per liter of milk. There is a special publication made by FAO, Climate Change and the global dairy cattle sector, but there are some others about meat, about livestock. But I want to underline that the IPCC suggests that the right solution to fight climate change and to guarantee, to reduce hunger and to guarantee enough food for the increasing population is the sustainable intensification of agriculture. So we need to produce more for the area used, to reduce also deforestation.
Thank you. Thank you. Dr. Tanawart, please.
Thank you very much. Being let's say, as we are a human being, we know that we need healthy food, clean water, and clean air. This one is a basic need. And when you're talking about the way that you consume, the consumption patterns, it depends on how you eat, what you eat, and how much you eat. When you talk about the global south and global north, when you're talking about food, you're talking about accessibility, affordability, and availability. Because if you are here in Rome, you can get everything what you want. But if you go to Mali, if you go to Bhutan, then I have to walk from one village to another village, spend half day. In Nepal, only rain-fed rice that they can have just only 1 year only. And that's why we need to be aware of all the issues around food system, including livestock is a part of food system and agri-food system. We need to talk about balancings and rebalancings to make sure that we need to be realistic. As my colleagues from Africa mentioned, still many farmers rely on livestock. But maybe in the other regions that are talking about how to reduce consumption, reduce the number of livestock, or even though whatever you want to reduce. It depends on your priorities. It depends on your needs. And we respect your decisions because the need and priorities of each country is different. And that's why we are sure that when we discuss the issue around sustainable livestock transformation at the global conference, we will bring solutions. We will bring good practices that we can share our practices together, how we can do better, how we can produce more with less impact, how we're going to make sure that we can inform policymakers, consumers, and public that we are producing with accountability and responsibility.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. I really want to commend the president of the World Farmers Organization. He sat next to me quietly, waiting to give us the punch as his closing remarks. He has heard it all. This has been a wonderful forum. I would like you to give us our closing remarks as you also reflect on what you've heard. Thank you, Mr. Arnold.
Thank you, Mrs. Moderator. Thank you for the job you have made. Your Excellency, ladies and gentlemen, first of all, I want to underline that I hear always the voice of the activist. All the farmers hear the voice of the activist everywhere in the world. When I say the activist, we are also activists. You are activists. We hear all this voice and we try to change our way of producing, to produce more with less. But be aware that less than 1 century ago, just less than 2 billion people were on this land. We are 4 times more. And livestock have been a big solution to feed all these people. You know, the year where the wheat is not good, where do we use the wheat? We can't make bread. We feed the chicken with that. Where in the industry we transform all the vegetables and we have some lost because some products are not good. We feed the pigs with that. And so. How do we feed the cow? We feed the cow mainly with the grass. And where is produced the grass? On land who is not arable. You can't seed grain, you can't produce vegetable, you have just grass. And grass, the only animal we are able to transform is goat, sheep, and cow, and horses. But really, it's the real life. It's what we do. And everywhere in the world, we are aware of the sensibility of some of the citizens, and we try to answer to that. But at the same time, we are facing the climate change. And livestock, it's also part of the solution. When you have a climate who are changing so suddenly, it's more and more difficult sometimes to be a vegetable producer or a cereal producer. And livestock can be the solution because the rain is coming some year, some other year are not coming. And the only animal who are able to, you're able to feed with the hay, it's this animal, and it's produced on grass. What can we do with all this grass? Even you use it on your, like this. You can't make a good cigar with grass. It's only the cow who can give value to that. I want to underline that. But really, the livestock is part of the circular economy. You know, on our farm, most of the farmers, they have circular economy. If we have developed organic products everywhere in the world, it's because we have all the manure produced by all these animals who are able to feed the land where we produce the vegetables and so and so. And I want to finish by the importance of the carbon and the biodiversity. The two main things of carbon and biodiversity is the pastures. And the pastures is the place where you have the animals. If you have no animals, you have no reason to have pasture, and nobody will take care of that.
Thank you, everyone, and thank you to the participants. Keep pushing us, keep challenging us. This is not it's not easy. Thank you to my panelists, my honorable panelists. Thank you so much for your time. To the organizer, to the translators and interpreters. Thank you, everyone, and have a good afternoon.